Hōkūao, commissioners, Hōkūao, community, Hōkūao. I respectfully submit, sorry. My name is Hōkūao Pellegrino. This is my wife, Pellegrino. We respectfully submit supplemental written and oral testimony to the hearing officer's proposed finding, facts, conclusions of law, decision, and order for the contested case. There are three main objections that I am requesting the Commission to address in the following following exceptions that I provided on January 5th, 2018. First, regarding surface water use permit 2332E, existing 2333.6, new use for TMKs 23-5-012023. Second is regarding traditional and customary rights related to surface water use permit application SWUPA 2332, existing, and 233.6, new use for TMK 3-5-012023. And third and lastly, regarding the proposal that no further action is needed for the IIFS below the Waihe'e ditch diversion based on an apparent misconception of the situation regarding the dumping of Waihe'e river water into Waikabu Stream and the impact to Kealia wetlands and National Wildlife Refuge, as well as the dumping of water into Palia'a Gulch, Waikabu. In 2009, my family and I filed a SWUPA for surface water for the North Waikabu Kuleana Auwai via the Waikabu Stream. The matter on hand is in regards to parcel 23. This 2.134 acre parcel of Kuleana land is where my wife and I and my two keiki live and operate Noho'ana Farm. Since 2004, we, along with my parents, Victor and Wallet Pellegrino, extended ohana neighbors, have been restoring and cultivating our ancestral lo'ikalo for the purpose of sustaining our family, community, and implementing a cultural ag education program to date, which has had over 15,000 participants. Since returning to our ancestral land, my family and I have always had the intention and commitment to restoring and cultivating all of our lo'ikalo. We conducted a detailed survey of our land and have concluded that, as specified in SWUPA 2332 and 2336, that there are a total of 12 lo'ikalo, which equates to a total of 1.6 acres of the 2.134 acre of parcel 23. As provided in my testimony and written testimony during the 2006 contested case hearing, I specified that our lo'ikalo range from as small as 300 square feet to over 8,000 square feet, and in fact, our largest lo'ikalo is about 8,372 square feet. When we began restoring our lo'i in 2004, we were greatly limited in our ability to cultivate beyond 1 to 2 lo'i at any given time out of 12 that we intended to open due to low stream flow caused by the Wailuku Water Company's South Waikabu diversion, which distributes water, most of its water, to Waikabu properties and Maui Chapco Plantation. Historically, the Waikabu Stream was completely diverted and dry from about 1904 to the early 1980s. The flows since then had been minimal, with less than 5% being left in the stream. Our ohana felt like we were held hostage since the restoration of our very first lo'i in July 16, 2004, until 2014, in which an IIFS was implemented for Waikabu Stream. Even since the IIFS was implemented, my ohana and entire community experienced many periods of low flows due to Wailuku Water Company's inability to follow the law and release the legal binding amount of water. On top of this is the lack of enforcement by the Commission staff engaging system in a working order. The current IIFS for Waikabu is very limiting, allowing us to only expand the cultivation of lo'i from 1 to 2 lo'i on 0.2 acres to now 4 to 5 lo'i on about half acre. It is important to keep in mind that there are also Kuleana land owners around us whom we support and are now restoring lo'ikalo with an increased water usage. While this is a great first step for our community with the increase in traditional agriculture, production on Kuleana lands in Waikabu, there's not enough water via the current Waikabu IIFS to support all these efforts. The permit granted to parcel 23 by the 2018 DNO will negatively impact our current needs and intentions for full restoration of 12 lo'ikalo. For one, the allocated amount via the permit is only for 31,700 gallons per acre per day, or 0.2 acres, when in our SWUPA 2332E, we specified that our existing use was actually 54,000 to 62,000 gallons per day. Furthermore, since 2014, we now have a half acre in cultivation and are in the process of restoring all 1.6 acres or 12 Hōkūao when more stream flow exists. The current permitted allocation limits our current state of cultivation and would not allow us to cultivate all 12 Hōkūao on 1.6 acres as we have specified in both SUPA 2332 and SUPA 233.6 as our main purpose and end goal. I would like to request the Commission to make appropriate changes in the permitted amount to include our current use of water for a half acre as well as a proper amount for a full build-out of 1.6 acres. The allocation for full build-out of 1.6 acres is based on the calculation used by the hearing officers for Hōkūao, which is consistent with 240,000 gallons per acre per day. The second issue on hand is in regards to the 2018 proposed decision not to grant a Category 1 traditional and customary rights permit for parcel 23, the parcel that I live and farm on with my family. I strongly disagree with this conclusion due to the fact that both my wife and I are Kanaka Maoli. We are native Hawaiian and growing kalo on our Kuleana land in an area which was historically grown kalo by native Hawaiians of whom I'm related to. There was no process for me to prove that I'm genealogically connected to this parcel, even though in fact I am. There are 3 other Kuleana parcels in which my ancestors were awarded Kuleana parcels via the Great Mahele throughout Waikapu in the ili of Ohia, Aikanaha, and Kaloapelu. And in fact, the ili of Ohia, which is the most Mauka Kuleana parcel where my family owns, is actually where the awai begins that Mr. Chumley was talking about for his Makanio ranch. Had I known that I needed to disclose in greater detail my ancestral connection to parcel 23 and others to prove my lineage to the Ahupua'a Waikapu, I would have provided that in my testimony. It is, however, irrelevant due to the fact that I am Kanaka and engage in the traditional and customary practices of growing kalo in Navai'iha. Therefore, I would like to request that the permit for parcel 23 be classified as a Category 1 traditional and customary rights by the Commission. The last point I'd like to make is a third and final exception in regards to a statement in the 2018 DNO on page 525 about how water was returned to Kealia Pond. The conditions for the Waihe'e ditch, and quote, the conditions for the Waihe'e ditch diversion at high flows was to ensure that such flows would not be captured by the Waihe'e ditch and that the water would reach Kealia Pond when the streams flooded. As a consequence, water has returned to Kealia Pond, which was previously mudflats, despite it not flowing continuously in its lower reaches, end quote. The true characteristics of the Waikapu stream and its natural flow in relationship to Kealia wetlands and now a national wildlife refuge have never been fully understood nor studied scientifically. While there may be water observed in the lower reaches of the Waikapu stream and consistent flow entering the Kealia wetlands and exiting via the Muliwai of Palalau into Ma'alaya Bay, what is occurring is unnatural and is caused by the Wailuku Water Company dumping of Waihe'e ditch water into the Waikapu stream via a return ditch that parallels the stream 50 feet beyond the Waihe'e ditch diversion intake of Waikapu stream. The dumping of water by Wailuku Water Company has been a common practice and is in fact happening as we speak at this very location at 8:39 a.m. this morning. So, with that said, the main source of water for Kealia, historically and prior to any sugar plantation stream diversions, was solely the Waikapu stream and sometimes intermittent flow from Oawa Kilikika, Ka'onahua, Pale'a'ahu, and Pohakea Gulch during major storm events. Kealia was once Maui's largest wetland, ancient inland fish pond, including Mahele Land Commission awardees to those native Hawaiian families who managed the most famous pa'akai or salt grounds on the island of Maui. Following the installation of modern sugar plantation era diversions such as the South Waikabu intake, which occurred in 1904, the only water that would reach Kealia was during high flow events in which water flowed over the 4+ diversion intakes. In 1992, when the 704-acre Kealia National Wildlife Refuge was established, brackish wells were provided and for habitat for endangered aiko and alai ke'okeo. What one observes today at Kealia is a pond that is literally full to the brim. The refuge has ceased operation of their wells for now over 5 years, which related directly what they thought as the establishment of the IFS for the Waikabu stream in 2014. But it was really due to increased dumping by Wailuku Water Company's Waihe'e ditch dumping into the Waikabu stream in the sole reason, which is the sole reason as to why there's an abundance of water in Kealia. Waihe'e ditch was a source of irrigation for Hawaiian Commercial and Sugar Company, which leased over 1,000 acres of land from now Waikabu Properties, previously Wailuku Agribusiness, for cultivating sugarcane. HCNS no longer exists, and these leased lands returned to the current owners for diversified agricultural use. Beginning in 2015, after the 2.9 million gallon IIFS was established on the Waikabu stream and HCNS was substantially phased out of sugarcane production, Wailuku Water Company immediately started dumping the surplus water from the Waihe'e ditch into the Waikabu stream on a daily basis. Rather than leaving the surplus water in its source streams, which is Waihe'e River, Wailuku River, and Waikabu stream, it was diverted and then dumped, inundating Kealia Pond National Wildlife. USGS in late 2018 and earlier this year measured flows below the Wailuku Water Company Waihe'e diversion intake crossing over the Waikabu stream and documented upwards of 5 million gallons per day. The intake would divert most, if not all, of the Waikabu stream at the Waihe'e ditch diversion intake, not allowing for passage of water, and then 50 feet below would dump the same amount of water that was diverted, plus millions of gallons of additional water from the Waihe'e ditch into the Waikabu stream, which then flowed to Kealia. While water in Kealia Pond is extremely beneficial to promoting habitat for endangered native aviary, aquatic, mammal species, the sudden and continual surge of water has caused an onset of challenges never faced before. Kealia Pond is, in a very short period of time, expanded from less than 50 acres to over 400 acres of wetlands. The entire refuge staff, which includes biologists, have been overwhelmed with problems never experienced since their inception, including a vast increase of feral ungulates, rodents, and non-native aviary species, many of which that prey on the endangered wetland birds, nests, and eggs. The large increase of unnatural flow entering the refuge has also allowed for invasive species to flourish, which in turn outcompetes native plant species that are critical habitat for the endangered wetland bird. There's no doubt that Kealia wetlands need stream water for the purpose of providing habitat for these native species and as serving as an important cultural and historical site of Maui. However, the unnatural flow of water that has been occurring via the dumping of other river and stream water into Waikabu stream by Wailuku Water Company is unacceptable and is causing detrimental problems that should be naturally flourishing wetland environment on its own. Therefore, I would like to request that the Commission address this issue head-on by first ordering Wailuku Water Company to cease all dumping of Waihe'e ditch water into Waikabu stream, except as may be helpful to support the downstream flow characteristic study of that stream. Secondly, since Waikabu stream water is not being allocated in any surface water use permit applications after users from the South Waikabu intake, South Kuleana-Auwai and North Waikabu Kuleana-Auwai, whatever flow that is in the Waikabu stream at that point of the Waihe'e ditch at Waikabu stream should not be diverted at all and allowed to flow naturally and continuously to Kealia Pond. The diversions should in fact be shut down, period. The major user of Waihe'e ditch beyond the Waikabu stream is Waikabu Properties, LLC, Mike Atherton. He has strongly supported our efforts to shut this intake down once and for all and to support stream connectivity via a 2019 Integrated Natural Cultural Resource Preservation and Management Plan framework. Restoring stream flow connectivity in this part of the stream will provide critical data and true understanding of the characteristics of the Waikabu stream in relationship to Kealia wetlands and National Wildlife Refuge, which has never been comprehensively studied from the first Navai'i Hakantisa case to the one before you now. I'd like to add one additional point to something that was mentioned earlier, if I may, about reserving water rights and or water allocations, because there are a multitude of Native Hawaiian families that are returning to the land, waiting for water to flow back into the stream for the use for traditional customary practices of farming wetland kalo. And I oppose any idea of water being used for anything other than that. Hōkūao stream is the smallest stream in Nawaiʻeha, one of the smallest streams in Nawaiʻeha, and it's already current, over capacity in terms of off-stream diverted use. And the property that was discussed earlier in regards to Makaniolo Ranch has two issues. One is that our family owns the Kuleana parcel of land in Ohia from my fourth great grandfather, where the Auai began and originally flowed to those Kuleanas. Secondly is that I have spent over 30 years researching the titles of those lands, and none of those lands are clear title. Therefore, I would encourage you, if you were looking at increased flow, to ensure that Native Hawaiian families come back to those lands and utilize that water for what it was intended for, which was for traditional customary practices of wetland kalo cultivation. For that, I would support the increase, but not for anything else. And last but not least is, and these matters are of great importance to not just myself, but the entire Nawaiʻeha community. So, on behalf of myself, and my family being involved in this from the get-go for over 16 years, I respectfully ask that you guys think about the community, think about the injustices, think about the history that Nawaiʻeha has gone through over the last 150 years when you're making your decisions, and to support in-stream use and kalo farmers. Mahalo.
Any questions? Mike?
On a related subject, because you are a kalo farmer, there's a lot of details in the hearings officer's report on the amount of water that is utilized, not only in million gallons per day, but also is it locked in at the time of the Great Mahele, or is there increased water use now because of invasives and higher temperature? I just wondered if you could give us your insight on that.
So just to frame the question, is understanding about the increased uses that are occurring now, or
I think the current hearing officer's report is recommending 150,000 MGD per day, and also using the same amount at was at the time of the Great Mahele. But that's the current hearing officer's report.
Yes.
Recommendation. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think there's concerns over that study. Well, I think that I'm not going to put my hui cap on, but while there are supportive factors over that number, I think there's been discrepancies. Office of Hawaiian Affairs did a study prior to that in conjunction with efforts from Waiahole that looked at actual gallons per day per acre for wetland kalo cultivation, and that number ranged over 200,000 gallons. So is 150,000 gallons a fair allocation? I couldn't really tell you, because I don't even have that amount. I don't even have enough of that. I don't have that amount now to tell you whether that's going to be enough to farm our 1.6 acres, because I don't have enough water to farm even half an acre with the minimal use that I had from the time that this case was established. My use hasn't changed because our water allocation permit has not been awarded to us. So I don't think anybody can definitively say that 150,000, 200,000, 300,000, or whatever is going to be okay, because these numbers haven't changed based on your decision. And so I'd like to see some flexibility in that number. I don't think there's anywhere in the Mahele that stated how much water they were using at that time necessarily. These are, data and research that people have put together, but I think it's somewhere in the middle.
Mahalo. Well, a couple questions just for clarity for me. So I think it's 2336. You're saying as a Kanaka Maoli, you're asking for traditional customary rights for that water to farm out is it 12 lo'i?
12 lo'i.
Okay. And you're putting that into the record, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
I wanted to be clear too, for us, I'm a numbers person. I like data and I like facts. And while it was easy for us to say that we have 2.134 acres, therefore I want water for that amount of acreage. I spent the time and our family spent the money to survey not just the meets and bounds of our property, but actual meets and bounds of every single ro'i, so that we could really calculate the exact amount of water that we needed. So that's where that 1.6 comes from. It's not something that was thrown out there. It was actual survey within a survey that was done. I know not everybody has the opportunity to do that, but at least for my ohana, I want to make sure that we're accountable for the water that we use, and therefore I think that's a humble request to ask for water for 1.6 acres of our kuleana.
Because you minus out the kuauna, is kind of what you're saying.
Minus the kuauna and minus where the traditional house lots were, and our current existing house is situated on the exact location of where the house site was documented at the time of the mahele.
Awesome. And your place, your farm is at now, is there a ho'i? Is there a
Oh,
ho'i?
yes. And I'd like to add to the record that, at the time that this began in 2009, our parcel of land had the only ho'i other than the original ho'i that would return after the 30 parcels on the north Waikapu, Kuleana, Hawaii. But since then, there's been many other families that have gone back to their ancestral lands to farm logging. So now there's actually a total of 3 ho'i that are returning to the stream. So that's important, because while these people are feeding their lo'i and that water goes back to the stream, that's less water in the Hawaii for us. And that's not a complaint. We 150% support that, but it just goes to show that there's much more water that's needed for kuleana use as people increase their access to water and cultivation of kalo.
And this is a harder question, so I wanted to ask, if putting on your Nawai'eha hat, knowing the length of time of this particular issue, I believe 16 plus years, and as long as we've been involved, and now we're coming to a situation where our commission will be making a final decision. And knowing, I'm just wondering if you could talk about the people that were involved that are no longer here with us, and just to have their names on the record, knowing that there are Hawaiian families that have been advocating for water that are no longer here because of the length of time in which this commission has been unable to resolve this issue.
There are a lot of families and kupuna and friends that are no longer here. This very room was where it started for our first contested case in 2007. And the first person I remember sitting up here that I will never forget is Mr. Teruyo Kamasaki, who gave his life for the plantation. He worked for Wailuku Sugar Company and gave his life to an industry that served injustices for our community. And as soon as he retired, his kuleana away and his kuleana source of water was taken away. And I sat here in tears, the same tears that I shed now for someone who I still to this day can't understand why that happened. To most recently is a friend that I grew up with that was one of the most humble kanaka that I've ever known. And it was just too young for him to pass away earlier this year. But Luke McLean is one of his family, the McLean Ohana, the Kuamu, the Makaivis, the Pelekai. I announced their name because they are one of the last remaining kuleana families in Waikapu, along with myself. And the Harders and the Kaitiponis, we are the last holdouts
in Waikapu that have, and the Vidas, that have traditional lineal ties to these Hōkūao. If that doesn't send a statement to the fact of how much loss has occurred over the last 150 years due to the hands of these plantation corporations, it's just, you know, I appreciate you folks trying to make some right out of all this. And I'm not one to frown on being pessimistic and being that this is too late. But this has just been too long. And there are people that, you know, from Waihe'e to, you know, the Faustinos, the Kahalekais. I mean, there's just been a whole slew of other family members and community members and friends who have been on this list and are only there on paper now. And so I appreciate you asking that question, and I apologize for being emotional over this, but it's, you know, if I had all the time in the world, I would list you the names of every single Kuleana user that was awarded at the time of the Mahele all the way to now that deserves to be heard.